we own the world. We have the world in our hands. And in fact, my story is going to be about actually, no, we don't. The consumer does. Oh, the camera does add 5 kilograms. So I'm going to speak to you about what Forrester calls social computing. And with some luck, my slide will come up. Social computing is what we believe as Forrester is what your response should be to the phenomenon of Web 2.0. Web 2.0, we don't use that word, so this is the last time I said it. I think it's a term used by geeks in Silicon Valley, and basically about the technologies and the tools that consumers have these days to form communities, to communicate with each other, to share information, to share entertainment with each other. But the effects are social computing. What are they doing and how is that affecting you? And that's what I'm going to talk about. And I'd like to illustrate that by starting with a little piece of history.
It's coming at where it's coming at, my God, it's big, can't believe how big it is. It's coming at, gone round and round, it's just so freaking good. It's coming at, expensive man, this man better sell some bloody
Right, so why is this history? Well, life used to be very simple of marketers. And that was because we had all the information. We had CRM systems, we have content management systems, we knew all about the product, we knew all about consumers. And with that power, with those processing machines, we could essentially tell the world. That has changed. Right now, processing moves to the edge of the network, to the consumers. If you add up all the power in mobile phones, in PCs at home, you end up with 10 times more power in the hands of consumers than all of us combined companies have in their systems. And the effect of that is that people are starting to communicate with each other. I keep pressing this button, but nothing happens. Sorry about that. Consumers have ample storage for information, for media, for music files. And that is spreading now as well to the third world. Nicholas Negroponte has started a conglomerate where they make PCs, laptops, for only $100. And they give it to the children in the third world so that they also become, these PCs have an internet connection, so that they also become part of the digital world. I saw a documentary the other day of a woman in Bangladesh who got a microcredit of $25. The bank borrowed her $25 so she could start her own business. And with that $25, she bought a mobile phone. And with that mobile phone, every morning she called around to the trucking companies. She actually got on the mercantile exchange in Chicago to see what the prices of the different crops were. And then later, the farmers in her village came to her and said, okay, is this a good time to harvest? Is this a good time to transport our goods? And they paid her some money for that information. And she had a decent living based on one mobile phone. Time and place are becoming irrelevant. You can reach anyone, anywhere in the world, just like this woman in Bangladesh could go to the Chicago exchange to do her business. And the effect of this is, like I said, that people are communicating more, and communication is getting easier as well, more effective. RSS, real simple syndication, and presence. Machines telling you, yes, this person is now able to talk to you and to listen to you, are making communication more effective. These are technical products that have, in fact, led to some business successes already. You all know Google, you know eBay, Wikipedia, an encyclopedia that is arguably as good as an encyclopedia made by a professional company investing millions and millions of dollars every day. Wikipedia is for free, just like Linux is for free, made by consumers, for consumers, using the power that they have in machines. On top of this technology change, there's also social change. We have an aging population. And what our research shows of Forrester is that people, when they get older, become more community-oriented. Younger people are oriented towards career, towards entertainment. Older people are more family-oriented and start to communicate more. At the same time, and Mr. Glock already mentioned that as well, youth communicates a lot more than for instance, me. When I was a little kid, let's say 16, and wasn't listening to my parents, they punished me by saying, okay, you can't watch television anymore for a week. And I hated that. Now I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I told her, when she got home at 6 o'clock in the morning again after partying, okay, you can't watch television anymore. She's like, I don't care, I don't watch television. Okay, give me your mobile phone. I don't care. Okay, give me your PC. No, not my PC, I will never do it again. Instant Messenger is what is important to these kids, and also important to me, because finally I found something that I could discipline her with. And on top of that, another societal change is that we are moving more and more towards a global society. Companies all over the world working together, consumers all over the world being interested in each other, affecting each other, economies being intertwined, the world becoming flat. The effect of this all for you is that the trust of consumers in traditional media is going down. Slowly, step by step, consumers trust traditional media less, the content of expert journalists, etc., and are trusting other media more. When you look at advertising, the picture is even more dramatic. About 25% of consumers trust advertising through traditional media, ads on television, radio, magazines. And actually, about the same amount of people trust advertising through new media, the internet and email. For Google, search engine ads are only trusted by about 5% of consumers. That's not good news. What is interesting, though, about this picture is who they do trust, consumers. About 75% of consumers trust recommendations from friends and family. Now, that's not so spectacular if you think about it, because that's what friends are for. What is really spectacular is 25% that doesn't trust friends and family. That's pretty sad. I'm a numbers guy. I'm actually, by education, a rocket scientist. So I love numbers, math, physics, love that stuff. What for me is interesting in this picture is the second bar. Consumers trust consumer opinions posted online. 40% almost of them. And I saw this for the first time 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that this bar was growing. That to me was the signal something is changing. And I can look at this forever, at this picture. Because imagine what's going on. You want to buy a plasma TV. And you go online, you go to some expert site, or you buy a magazine, a hi-fi magazine, to find out what is the good one. Or you go to a website like Kelco, and you look at what people who bought that plasma TV are saying about it, and you actually believe those people more than the experts in magazines and in a newspaper and on the internet. I have a story about that. I was discussing this with a number of hotel owners about a year ago. And after my presentation, I was in the elevator with a beautiful, distinguished Italian man, very nicely coiffed. He introduced himself to me as the owner of a hotel in Rome. And he said, "This is so right." And then he started talking to me. He said, "Okay, this is what my day looks like. I go to the office, open my laptop, take my espresso, of course, and go to tripadvisor.com. Who knows tripadvisor.com? Ooh, a lot of travelers here. Very good. So it's a website where people who have stayed at a particular hotel can say what they thought about that stay, and they can rate the hotel. And so he looked at his own hotel, how it was rated. And it really made his day, because he got really nice ratings every day. So that's cool. Until one morning. He had his espresso, opened his PC, tripadvisor.com. Ratings plummeted. What's going on? He went into the details, found that there was one guy who had given him the lowest rating possible. And he looked at the text that the guy had said, and he's like, wow, we really suck. So he got his management team together. He's like, how can this happen? Well, it didn't happen. The guy probably got his room service 10 minutes late, and that was it, and was in a really bad mood, and wrote a really bad review. So the guy called TripAdvisor.com and says, "This is just bullshit. Can you take it off your site?" And TripAdvisor said, "No. It's called freedom of speech." Ooh, okay. Well, at least let me write a comment to it then. We don't have that functionality. So he could go nowhere. And what does a person do when he can go nowhere? He calls his lawyer. So he called his lawyer and said, "Get these TripAdvisor people." Took the lawyer about 3 months to finally get functionality that he could use to give a comment on the website, which he did. And it cost him about 100,000 euros in legal fees to get to that point. And he said to me this was the best money he ever spent. But why? During those 3 months, he lost a third of his business. One lunatic saying something bad about his hotel. 30% of revenue lost. That is the power of that second bar. So who are these people? These lunatics, or maybe very smart people, righteous people, who write these reviews, give each other information. About 25% of consumers send each other website links. And 25% of consumers actually visit the websites that are sent to them by friends and family. About 15% have rated a product online, etc., etc., etc. And what is interesting is about half the amount of people that have rated a product online have actually bought a particular product based on somebody else's rating. And this is not in all of history. This is in the last 3 months. That is the effect of these particular ratings. So that's what is changing right now. Consumers are talking to each other, sending each other email through the power they have in the circle, in the donut around companies, and at the same time they don't believe advertisers, they don't believe media, and actually they're not even listening to media and advertisers anymore. So it's another effect of this is that brand loyalty is slowly declining. You've heard it from Mr. Clock as well. If there's no added value, consumers consider other shampoos, store brands just as important, or maybe even a better quality proposition as the branded product today that have lots of advertising investments in it. This line, both in the US and in Europe, is going down 2% each year, brand loyalty. And price sensitivity is going up each year by 2%. So this is pretty gloomy, I would think, if you're an advertiser. Who feels good right now? Who feels bad? Nobody feels anything? Come on, Jesus. Okay, so it is bad news if you're an advertiser, but there are also tons of opportunities to use this social computing, this power in the edge of the network at your advantage. That's what we're going to talk about right now. Let's go back to that little video of Carlton Beer. It was shot very well. It was a smart idea. It was funny. It was made via the standard rules of marketing that we have applied over the last 20 years, 40 years. We look at the demographics of our target group. We look at their behaviors. We look at their attitudes, their interests, their aspirations, etc. And then we develop a message. Then we look again at the data on their media consumption and figure out, okay, this is the best way to bring this message to consumers, whether it's the internet or TV or radio or outdoor, and we bring it to them. And this has worked for us for decades. And it's worked for Procter & Gamble and Pepsi and Coca-Cola very well for decades. And they've turned it into an art. The one thing that we hardly thought about when we were making these ads was the community dynamics. It's about my daughter showing off her new mobile phone to her girlfriends at school. Or my neighbor hanging over the fence saying, wow, this new car is really nice. You need to get yourself one as well. Those group dynamics we never considered when we were making these ads. But it didn't really matter because they were contained. Guy over the fence, little group of girls in the school. The difference now is that we have all these social media that came to the scene. And a message sent about a bad hotel in Rome can reach millions of people looking for a hotel in Rome and lead to a third of them deciding not to go there anymore. Group dynamics have become extremely important. So what Forrester has done is looked at how do these group dynamics work really on the internet. And we discovered that there are essentially 4 levels of community. The highest level are the creators. Creators are the people who write blogs, who shoot videos and put them on YouTube. About 7% of the population, or in fact 7% of every community, consists of creators. These are very influential people because they are the people who come up with the new ideas, start new trends. The level below are the critics. Critics take these new ideas and enhance them. They comment to them. They say, well, but if we do it this way, if we do it that way, they shape it and they turn the idea of one man into the wisdom of crowds. Twice as many people as are creators are critics. For every creator, there are 2 critics. About 14% of each community. And then the level below are the collectors. These are people who are gathering information from all over the place, wherever they can find it. And then they filter it. They look at, is this relevant for the community or is it not? If it's not, it's gone. If it is, they send website links to their friends and family saying, you want to see this, you want to read this. This is interesting, this is good. These people are completely in touch with the needs of the community. It's about the same size as the critics, 18% of a community. And all of them stand on top of the largest part of the community, the couch potatoes, the passive people who just sit there and let information come to them. About 50% of each community, I think it's 58% in fact, of each community consists of these passive people, the couch potatoes. And those are the only people who you are reaching with push marketing. But they are also reached, you should bear in mind, by the collectors, the critics, and the creators. Push marketing only reaches the couch potatoes who, unfortunately, are the people with the lowest income as well. Slightly older audience. Usually not the people you want to make a margin. So how do you get in touch with the rest of this community? Well, let's first look at what they do. creators, especially on the younger age, are much more active than at an older age. But it's a popular myth that it's just the younger folks that do this blogging and MSNing and Friends Reunited, social networking. It's also definitely the older people who are becoming part of these networks. And what this graph doesn't show you is that about 60% of these active people in the communities, the creators, the critics and the collectors, are actually female. And that to me, as a researcher, was an enormous eye-opener. If you think about it, all new technologies, the internet, broadband, mobile phones, SMS, you name it, the first people who try them are always the young urban professionals. High income, high education guys. This is the first time, the first technology, where women are taking the lead to share with each other information and to provide new ideas to the rest of the community. If you look at the media behavior of the active participants, you see that the active bloggers are spending about 28 hours online per week. 28 hours, that's almost a work week. In fact, in France, it is a work week. And 60% of them have told us that this goes at the expense of the exposure to the traditional media. So they read less newspapers, they watch less television, and they are harder to reach, and at the same time, they are influencing everybody else with their ideas. So how do you reach these people? Well, on the connector side, it's actually quite simple. Traditional marketing methods still work. These people are collecting information. So what do? You offer them content. So they can pass it on to the community. Companies like Le Monde or BBC, media firms, do this. The images that came to us 1.5 years ago when the tsunami hit Southeast Asia was shot by consumers, creators, critics, who happened to be on the scene. They were given to the news firms and then passed on through the internet or even through television to the collectors and to the couch potatoes. Other firms that are active here are companies. Typically, lots of companies are now starting a corporate blog. The CEO writes a blog and he starts talking to the audience, probably with the intent to reach a younger audience over the internet. If you have a CEO with a good sense of humor, that definitely helps. I'm talking to these companies, though, a lot lately, and their PR departments and PR companies. Like, okay, so how do we do this? Say, well, first of all, don't just show, and that's what half of them do, don't just show the PowerPoint decks that he showed to investors. Nobody cares about that. Just let him be an honest, open guy, and mostly make him human. Let him show also his insecurities and where he's really struggling. Okay, well, that's a stretch for most PR people already, who want to be in full control over the message. And then the next question invariably is, so, okay, fine, what do we do if they start talking back? I was like, well, that's great. Then you get a lot of information, you get a lot of feedback, and you can use that. I said, no, but they could say something negative. Surely we must edit that out. No, if you edit it out, nobody's going to trust him anymore. Everybody has criticism. And especially the people who will have sent a negative comment are probably critics who are very engaged in a community, and if you edit them out, the whole community will know that within a day. So you can't do that. So people who have companies who have trouble being honest, being open, and communicating with the target audience, I advise not to try and connect to critics, because to engage with them, you have to really start a dialogue. Wonder if this thing even works. There we go. To engage with them, you really have to go have a dialogue with the critics. Le Monde does this as well. What they do is once a week they reserve an hour where they invite somebody who is in the news, in this case the mayor of one of the banlieues in Paris where the riots were going on, to have an online discussion with the subscribers of Le Monde. An hour-long discussion which at the end an editor takes all the answers and turns into an article that is printed the next day in the paper. That way, Le Monde engages the critics and passes the information on, just like a collector, to the couch potatoes, who are the ones who are reading newspapers. If you're a company, you can also engage with critics. Apple does a very good job in customer service engaging with critics. Everybody can send their problems and their questions to an open website where they can be discussed with the community. Everybody can kind of say, oh yeah, I had that problem too, and then I installed fix whatever, or yeah, you have to turn that knob a little bit more, whatever the answer is. Consumers asking questions, other consumers giving answers. But at the same time, Apple is part of this website as well, and Apple technicians, customer service people, are part of that dialogue, and what they do very well is to show via icons when somebody happens to be an Apple employee or when it's another consumer. What they prevent that way is that consumers start to distrust these websites, that they are being manipulated by Apple employees who just say, well, I'm just a consumer and I love your products. That has happened a lot over the last year. You probably heard the story by Walmart. Walmart had asked Edelman, their PR agency, to do something in the blogosphere, and Edelman came up with a team of kind of geeky people who started to tour the USA in a car from one Walmart to the other, telling them what their experiences were on a blog. It took, I think, about 4 days for the blogging community to find out that these were actors acting on behalf of Edelman and Walmart, and it enormously backfired to the Walmart brand. There are many examples of this, and Apple, by showing these icons and saying, yeah, we are Apple employees and we're here to help you, actually prevents that and does a really good job in establishing trust in their brand, engaging with critics. The hardest group to engage with are the creators, because they want full control. They think that their great ideas should be heard, and those ideas could be about product, could be about service, could be about organization, could be about anything. To engage with them, companies really have to offer a platform for collaboration. A good example of such a platform is Nike. Nike has had a website called Nike ID for about 3 years now. And at this website, people can design their own shoe and buy it for 145 euros a pair. So I asked Nike, do you make money on that? On 145 euros for a custom-made shoe? They wouldn't tell me. So I asked Adidas, who has a similar website since about half a year. And they said, no, it costs us 180 euros to make a custom-designed shoe. Somewhere in Thailand, ship it over, credit card fees, all the rest of it. So why do they do it? Well, initially they did it because it was cool. But then the marketers started to find out that there was more to it. They started to monitor what was being designed by consumers. And for instance, if in 1 month 30% more custom-designed shoes were blue, what they did was immediately call the sweatshops in Thailand, the production facilities overseas, and said, start making blue shoes. What they realized was that the people who make these blue shoes are creators, influential people who start at the beginning of a new trend. And these trends can spread in about 2 months. So by the time the containers with blue shoes came to Europe and came to the US, into the stores, was the same time that the couch potatoes realized that blue was the new black. They used the creators to do their market research for them. They used the creators to actually market their new products at the same time. Other companies that do that, for instance, are Lego. They have a website called Lego Factory. And at the Lego Factory, there are 165,000 designs by consumers. And what they have done, they've got this really smart computer that if you send a picture of a custom designed piece of Lego, the computer figures out which stones you need and then says underneath the picture with your name on it, you can buy this for this amount of money. So they make a custom-made product out of an idea of a consumer. And if more than 20 people actually buy that, the person who sent the idea, which could be a 7-year-old kid, gets a commission on the sales of his design. I spoke with Lego and I said, so are you stopping to design completely yourself? Are you just becoming a factory with custom-made products? He said, maybe in 5 to 10 years that's where we could be. So Lego, Adidas, Nike, a couple more companies have these websites where they have a dialogue and engage with creators. You don't have to have a website like that. You can also go to Second Life and do that at that website where consumers go. Nokia does that. They put their new prototypes there and just look at what the avatars are saying about that prototype. Retailers have found Second Life, like American Apparel, that have a concept store there, just to see how consumers respond to the design of that store. And based on that, they may change the design of the store, they may change the whole inside, they may change the merchandise. They use that for market intelligence, but also to get the word going inside communities. Even media firms have found Second Life, like Endemol, the brilliant guys who brought us Big Brother. They started a Big Brother house in Second Life. And I want you to think about that for a second. That's a reality show in a virtual world. And about 50 people every day, the guy who started this, a friend of mine, told me 50 people every day put their avatar in the virtual Big Brother house to act for 24 hours in that house. And hundreds of people come and watch and see that. Get a life, is what I would say. So there are 4 levels that you can engage with a community: couch potatoes, collectors, critics, and creators. And I've shown you examples of each level. And here's an example of a company who has engaged with consumers on all levels. This was 1 minute and 17 seconds, so it wasn't a TV ad. This, in fact, is a video that I got from YouTube and that the agency from Unilever in Toronto had shot and just put on YouTube. And this particular ad pooled about 3 times as many women, because it's completely for women, 3 times as many women to the website of Dove, campaignforrealbeauty.com, as all the TV advertising that they had spent in the US for 2 years. 3 times as many. So I went to Campaign for Real Beauty as well. And you see that Dove tries to keep in touch with the women who feel that attracted by the message of self-image and beauty. They offer more information about stereotypes. They have a Dove Self-Esteem Fund to get more information and to keep engaged. They also invite people to get involved, to join the discussion. And many women do. Just on the topic of feeling obese, there are 274 pages, 15,000 comments of women who say, yes, this is totally true. Thank you very much, Dove, for bringing this up, and are talking to each other about that and reading each other's messages and are forming a community around this topic that is very important and close to their heart. On top of that, Dove offers a tell a friend, invite a friend, Real Beauty e-cards to its visitors, realizing that 25% of consumers send each other's web links, and 25% of consumers open these web links sent by friends and family. So Dove uses the community to spread the brand, to spread the message. Also uses the fact that 75% of consumers trust recommendations from friends and family. So it's an incredible endorsement to be that one of your visitors actually tells a friend and invites a friend to come to this website as well. They engage on all different levels with community, creators, critics, collectors, and couch potatoes. So what should you do? What are the rules of success in this new environment that is forming? There are 3 rules that you need to forget, and there are 3 new rules that I'm going to give you to think about and to start applying. Old rule in the old world was content is king. That is no longer true anymore. 60% of consumers download free content, music, video clips. Only 3% of consumers will pay for that content that they get from each other or even from a central website. Content isn't king, contact is king. Content is a way to get in touch with these communities. Another old rule that I want you to forget is the medium is the message. Putting a CEO on a blog, letting him show his corporate blah blah PR messages is not getting you anywhere. You're not hip if a CEO is on Web 2.0. Putting your product in Second Life and just let it lie there, that's not a message, that's just nothingness. And nobody's going to pick up on that. Instead, the message is the response. The response that you get from these type of activities, like Nokia gets a response in Second Life, like Lego gets a response, like Nike gets a response. That is the message that consumers are giving you and that you should take at heart if you want to be in touch with these communities. And the last rule that executives need to forget, and that you just heard on stage from the presenter from Procter & Gamble before me, is we call the shots. No, we don't call the shots. Consumers don't trust us. They trust each other. That's an old rule that executives need to forget. Ultimately, the rule is they call the shots. Consumers are in charge. They tell each other what to buy. They can influence each other because they trust each other. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. And if you think back, I started with a very, very masculine classic ad that has been working for decades very well for most brands. Whether it's on TV or online, push marketing to guys is where we come from. And then I showed you a female ad, which was completely pull marketing. Honesty, talking to each other, sharing information. That's where the future is. And when I realized that, I started thinking, okay, well, let's say I was in charge of making the DAF ad for guys. What would it look like? What would sharing and openness and all these things mean for guys? I thought a little while and then realized that arguably the biggest philosopher of these days had already given the answer. The biggest philosopher, Sacha Baron Cohen, also known by his aliases Borat and Ali G. This is the male version. Keep it real. Thank you very much.